Welcome to Mining Now. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Joining me today will be Todd Burns. He's the CEO of Cypher Environmental. They are a manufacturer of environmentally friendly dust control and soil stabilization solutions. And they're also doing a lot of work. They've got a program called Cypher Green Roads. And we're going to be talking and using some examples of specific mines who have obviously been cutting down on the impact on their equipment on roads, and also some of the work in communities around the mine. So a lot to cover today. Before we do that, I'm going to hand it over to Gowdy to give a shout out to our many sponsors.
Alrighty, so today we've got Holly Frontier Lubricants and Specialties, which includes the Petro-Canada Lubricants brand. Petro-Canada Lubricants products and services are proven to maximize equipment performance, productivity, and overall savings. From heavy duty engine oils to hydraulic fluids, automatic transmission fluids, and gear oils and greases, Petro-Canada Lubricants is committed to delivering innovative solutions that deliver value and keep businesses moving. They have dedicated technical expertise, knowledge, and know how to help customers in the mining industry operate smoothly with improved equipment, reliability, and performance. To learn more, you can visit them at lubricants.petro-canada.com or contact them 1-866-335-3369. Next up, we also have Fenner Dunlop. Monitoring the health of your steel cord conveyor belts has never been easier. Powered by Eagle Eye, Fenner Dunlop's Bird's Eye identifies potential belt issues before they have the opportunity to create the need for larger, more time intensive, and expensive action. Log in from your smartphone, tablet, or computer to access all your steel cord belts from one screen. Your Bird's Eye subscription also includes online remote service and call center support, on demand web reports, and yearly review of your system performance. Visit FennerDunlopAmericas.com for more information. And of course, we also have CIM. The CIM 2022 convention and expo is coming back to Vancouver in person this May. Show off your products and services in mining technology, digitalization, equipment, consulting, and engineering. There are a whole lot of perks waiting for exhibitors, and this expo will sell out fast. If you're a researcher thinking about what mining will look like for future generations, this convention is the perfect place to present your technical paper or lead a short course. Visit CIM.org for all the details and book your exhibitor space and submit your abstracts today. Next up, we also have Power Zone. When you need a specialized team of world class engineers for oil and gas and pipelines, dewatering, or any fluid handling needs, you want to visit powerzone.com. In addition to their inventory of rebuilt pumps, motors, engines, they also have an amazing team to design and engineer your systems, no matter the challenge, no matter the location. Get in the zone with Power Zone. Visit them at powerzone.com. And last but not least, we've got NSS Canada. NSS Canada provides safe, accurate, and innovative survey equipment solutions. As a Leica Geosystems and Hexagon Mining authorized reseller, they specialize in engineering, construction, and mining solutions. To learn more, you can visit them at nsscanada.com or you can call them at 705 744 3246.
Thank you very much, Gowdy. Todd, welcome to the show. Glad to have you on.
Hey, Jared, thanks for having me.
You have you built an interesting company, and you're working sort of all over the world now. I saw one article where you've actually finally got a chance to do some local work as well. But can you just give us a little bit of a more of an overview of what Cypher does, where you're delivering to, that sort of the scope of the company?
Absolutely. Well, the company actually started in my garage all those years ago, actually in my dad's garage and then onto my garage. And now we're in about 50 countries around the world. So we manufacture everything here in Winnipeg and we ship it all over the world, primarily through a team of distributors. If we don't have distributors, then we work directly with our clients. Our main focus is road stabilization and dust control, essentially helping our mining clients simultaneously reduce their environmental footprint and reduce their operating costs through better road management. So that can be management of existing roads or building of new haul roads. And we have a couple of different technologies, which I'm sure I'll have a chance to elaborate more on later today.
Yeah, I was reading through just to jump ahead a little bit. I was reading some stats on how much water there's, and I actually thought it was a thing of ignorantly, I'll admit, I thought it was a thing of the past that companies were still even using water. Um, but the numbers were like they were staggering the amount of water that they're using for dust control in some of these mines. Like really staggering.
Well, you think about having a 40-meter wide road or 50-meter wide road times however many kilometers you have, and using water to cover them every day. Water, of course, is only as effective as the ambient environment. So,
Right.
as soon as the road dries up, the water is ineffective and it requires more. So, the evaporation rate of the water specifically dictates how long it's going to last. Now, in the warmer drier environments where typically there's less water to use in the first place, the water is less effective there overall due to the temperatures. But yeah, we're talking in the millions of liters of water per day. And in watering the roads, it's not just burning water, but it's the fuel. So
Right.
people
Yeah.
just think, well, I'm watering my roads and water is free, or we're doing dewatering over here anyway, so we're using the water that we're pumping from over here, and we're just putting it onto our roads. But at the end of the day, it's not the water, but it's the actual distribution of the water onto the roads that's the major cost. So if you look at the fuel burn involved in terms of, you know, most large scale open pit mines have like a, let's say, a 793, a Caterpillar 793
Mhm.
truck retrofitted to a water tank. I think they have anywhere upwards of 85,000 or over 100,000 liter water tanks. Um, that's a big load to be pushing around your mine 24 hours a day. And
Yeah.
so you're burning tons of fuel, creating tons of greenhouse gases, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a really old fashioned way of doing it. And not only is it ineffective at controlling the dust, but it also actually eventually starts to erode the very same road that you're driving on.
Well, I was gonna
So that
say there's no
erode,
stabilization there, right? If water is there's no stabilization at all, of the opposite, right?
yeah, water is actually in, 9 times out of 10 is the one of the key sort of detrimental factors to road failures or road issues. And so you're causing a lot of erosion by putting all that water onto your road. It's carrying fines off your roads. It's exposing the larger granular particles, etc. And ultimately, it's creating erosion, making the road fall apart faster. It's also, in the rain, it's saturating the road, so you're getting soft spots, subgrade failures, that sort of thing. So yeah, at the end of the day, it's not a good thing to do to your road. You want to keep your roads dry if at all possible.
And I think you've done a really nice job of sort of educating through branding. Things like the Cypher Green Roads. It sort of leads to a question: Are you having? Is it? I guess a two-part question. Are there sort of three or four things that you sort of see minds common mistakes or errors or oversight that are happening that when you're having these conversations? And also, are you seeing, is it in the last few years? I mean the ESG is front and center, at very least in the conversations. Are you seeing it becoming a lot easier to communicate the value that you're bringing?
Oh, yeah, for sure. That's a long-winded question. Let's see if I can let's see if I can address all the questions there,
We'll
Jared.
start with the three parts,
I
then
should have
we can
written that
still
one
see the
down.
oversight. Yeah.
Yeah, but no. So I mean, we definitely address three major problems, and we actually have an ebook available for download. The three most costly mistakes in mining. One of them you addressed is or two of them really is using water on your roads for dust control, but more importantly, just not understanding the link between your roads and the overall efficiency or productivity of your mine. Um, it's a common known fact that operating costs for open pit mines can be attributed to up to 50% haulage costs, and so focusing on
Yeah.
your roads to reduce the overall cost or impact on your mine or to produce efficiencies in your mine is obviously something that I think a lot of people overlook.
So is that a
And
oh, sorry.
sorry, no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask, is that why would anybody do? Is it because it's a legacy system that they put in place? They've been using water. Like, how would that? I mean, a new mine, I can't imagine they would ever do it that way. So when you're going in and they're still using water and you're talking, I mean, how is that? How is that even happening? I guess, for
Yeah,
lack of a better
I don't
question.
know. Yeah, good question. I mean, a lot of mines, when I first started doing this, they would just do what would be called the rut and roll test, where they're not even really even designing proper haul roads. They're essentially just they're putting a dozer down creating a path, driving on it a bunch to compact it and calling it a road. And when I say a rut and roll
Right.
test, they literally would just drive a haul truck across the road and see how deep the rut was, and if the rut was of a certain minimal amount, then it created a passing grade, and off they went. And so it's a pretty backwards way of doing it, but nonetheless, I mean, I guess efficiency was the name of the game, and so that's the way to build your fastest road. But I think it's really about education. I think we need to educate people on the fact that there are other solutions out there, the benefits to using solutions that have no environmental impact, and that focus not just on environmental properties like being green, being made of sustainable inputs and biodegradable, etc., but also the tangible environmental impact it has on your road, like reducing the dust, and by reducing dust emissions by a certain percent, your visibility increases, haul trucks can drive faster, productivity increases, cycle times get reduced. We talk a lot about safety in mining these days, by reducing dust and improving visibility. Of course,
Yeah.
you have safer environments for your operators, less collisions and that sort of thing. So at the end of the day, it's win-win, and I think it's just the job of companies like Cypher is to get out there and educate people.
Yeah. What is going into the second mistake, in that book, and we'll put a link up so that people can download it, of course. Just going through a couple of other things that you highlight in that.
Yeah, well, one of them definitely is just the focus on community engagement. I think a lot of mines, if you look at Las Bombas right now as an example, it's a phenomenal example and great timing to have me on the show and talking about it. Because I mean they've been shut down specifically because of issues related to road blockages, and those
Yep.
road blockages are specifically related to the road itself. So quite often, there's a roadblock because it's the only way for the community to actually make an impact and get the mine to listen to them and listen to what their needs are.
Mm.
But in the case of Las Bombas, they're actually blocking the road, and one of the major complaints they have is the road itself. So Las Bombas is hauling on the road, and all their equipment, and using it as an access road as well, is driving on a dirt road that goes right through vital communities in the region, and all the dust is having a huge impact on the communities. The traffic and the road quality and road conditions, because of the excess use from the mine, is having an impact on the community as well. And so, not focusing on community engagement and that social license to operate piece,
Yeah.
I think is a critical piece that a lot of mines overlook. A lot of them are doing it great now, and everybody's talking about CSR and ESG. You can't show up at a mining conference these days without hearing it, left, right, and center. I believe in it 100%, and I think now it's come to the point where a lot of people in the past were just trying to pay it lip service, but a lot of people now
Yeah.
are actually really realizing that if you're going to talk the talk, you have to walk the walk. And I think it's that piece,
Yeah.
that walking the walk piece, that people are missing. And that's why we started Cypher Green Roads. And if I can jump into Cypher Green Roads for a second, then it's a good
For sure. Yeah.
segue, I suppose, Jared. So we wanted to give back, and as a company and as a supplier to the mining industry. Again, a lot of suppliers, I indeed, to use that term again, just talking the talk or paying lip service to ESG or CSR, but not really doing anything about it. And so we wanted to not just talk about the successes of our clients' ESG and CSR strategies, but we wanted to actually be a part of it and help them, help them engage further and up their CSR plans. And so we came up with Cypher Green Roads. And so when we work with any mining client anywhere around the world, we donate up to 5% of the project value to the local community in the form traditionally of our product. So of our road stabilization or of our dust control product. I'll focus a little bit on the dust control side here because that's what we've been primarily talking about. But so in the case of, let's say, Baffinland is a recent example. So with Baffinland, we provided them with, through their contract, all of the product to provide their to treat their tote road, the one road going from the port to the mine. And as a result, we made a joint donation with Baffinland and with a local freight company, NSSI, who paid for the cost to get our product there. And anyways, long story short, when we shipped our product up to Baffinland, we shipped an additional donation to the local community, which is a little village or a hamlet called Pond Inlet. And with that product, we had enough to treat all of the roads in Pond Inlet for free. Now, Baffinland has been in the news uh, recently because of their mine expansion plans, and of course, community engagement and social license to operate is important for them. And so, we were happy to see them engaging further with the community through this Green Roads program. But ultimately, what it did was developed a plan for the mine to share best practices with the community. So the actual product that's being used on the mines roads is now being used on the roads for the community. The community actually got training. Cypher sent their representative up and provided training. The representative, their costs were provided by Baffinland to get up there, and we provided the training to the community, who's going to be using the product perpetually, or at least next year. They've got plans to use the product again, and they're going to be applying it on their own with the skill sets and experience developed through the Cypher Green Roads program in year one. So it's a great win-win program, and as you can see, it helps us engage further with the mine and with the community, and it's win-win for everyone involved. And so, to get back to that question number two, or problem or challenge number two, or issue number two that you had brought up, community engagement, and that's really a way that we try to work with our clients. The use of our products inherently screams community engagement because they're reducing the dust or the impact that the actual mine is having on the surrounding community just by the use of our products in itself. But we wanted to go above and beyond, and that's why we came up with Cypher Green Roads.
Sort of circling back to something you said earlier is as suppliers are bringing in ESG solutions, that must be. I mean, I'm a little bit stating the obvious here, how important that is to the mines now that when they're coming to you, or you're coming to them and starting that communication, that you can clearly lay out the value add of of ESG, because they need to do it, and now they need the suppliers to be able to provide that, as opposed to the mines having to figure out every layer of it. So, I mean, how important of a driver has that been in just developing these business relationships globally now?
Yeah, it's huge for us. In the past, the use of our products was always ESG and CSR, just because they're making the mine or the operation more sustainable. But through a program like Cypher Green Roads, I mean, it's it's a phenomenal approach, because it gives the mine the points that they're looking for in terms of their ESG strategies with the
Yeah,
community. So it screams social license to operate, like I talked about with the Las Bombas example, or
yeah.
even with Baffinland. Um, but at the end of the day, they're I don't think a lot of other suppliers are really looking at it at the way that we are. I think that they're just
Mm,
they sell what they sell. They might be selling a widget to a mine which is used for a certain area of the operation. We got very lucky in the sense that, like I said, our products are actually environmentally friendly and solve environmental problems. And so, through the use of Green Roads, we could tie in, introducing our technology into a new region with actually getting it down to the very same community, which is the lifeblood of supporting that industry within the region. And so, it's a really nice win-win situation.
you have a slogan, "Always do what's right." Now that, I mean, it's a very interesting slogan. Was that at the beginning, or when did that come in as the main the main flag of the company?
You know what? It was a couple of years ago. It's funny. I've as the CEO, I've always been into business development and marketing. Those are two areas that I'm interested in. We are in the middle of a big sort of a big marketing rejig, and they come up with some slogan which or tagline which I just wasn't into it all. And actually, I came up with that one myself in my sleep. Always do what's right. It's as a when you're a CEO but come from an entrepreneurial background, you live and breathe what you do. And I've always been fighting personally. It feels like against, or it feels like my entire adult life has been a struggle against, technologies, or and I don't even want to call them technologies. It's the old way, the dinosaur approach of doing things. We talked about using water before, but using salt and using oil are two other major competitors of ours, which is just insane. I mean, this is 2022 to think that we're still allowing salt and oil to be sprayed on our roads to control dust or to stabilize them is crazy. I mean, it's like a band-aid approach. It's solving one environmental issue by causing another one. It's amazing how much of an uphill battle sometimes it feels like to get people to change, to switch their minds. And so one day we just came up with the idea of always do what's right. It embodies the essence of using our products. Is the right thing to do. But ultimately, it's the philosophy we take in terms of everything we do with with people, with the team members that we have, with the community, with things like Cypher Green Roads. We donate 15% of annual profits to charities. So I should have mentioned there's a minimum volume requirement in terms of dollar values for
Oh
green
yeah,
roads
I was
projects to
reading that. Yeah.
exist. If you don't, it's not too high. It's 250,000 US dollars. If you're below that cap, we actually still donate 15% of our annual profits to local charities as well. So really, every single time somebody's making a purchase or an investment in a site for technology, we're actually giving back to the community. And then of course it screams volumes to the actual products that we're developing ourselves. I mean, I talked about not using salt and not using oil. When we're selecting the criteria for our raw materials that are going to our products, we have a zero tolerance policy for anything that's toxic in any way, shape, or form. And so always do what's right really just speaks to a philosophy of how we want to make an impact in this world. When we leave the world, we want it to be a better place than when we got here.
So when you develop something like Cypher Green Roads, something that sort of stands out to me with that is then I mean, it still takes a couple, that someone needs to still put it out, someone needs to transport it, all these things. It's sort of, but you're sort of making the first move. And I guess that is one standout difference. You're not just saying to a mine, well, you could use it for this. You're actually putting the tools in place that they can use it and that there's an advantage for them. And that's part of what's doing it right, is not just setting things up for other people to do it, but actually putting some responsibility on yourself and sort of, and also um, giving other people reasons to do it and a platform to do it. So that's sort of part of, I guess, always do what's right. You could take that as a sort of, well, we made a good product. That's, but you sort of taken it a step further. Was that conscious? Did you sort of, when you brought, how would I ask it? Did that slogan come from that approach? Or once you bring that slogan on, does it start to sort of change the mindset of even just everybody on your team to start to look for ways to sort of enhance it?
Yeah, it all kind of happened at the same time. And I think when I talked about people and I talked about the team members and always do what's right, a big part of the philosophy in that as well was also developing our core values.
Mm,
Because if your core values are really defined, it makes your team members, it makes it easier for them to say yes or say no. Because if there's a decision that goes against the core value, then it's an automatic no. And if they
right.
know that, it just makes the ease of really empowering them that much easier. And so by really empowering them and by developing things like always do what's right, and having that really open communication philosophy, it just breeds things like people coming up with ideas like Cypher Green Roads. And so I think they sort of come hand in hand to answer that question, Jared.
Yeah.
And in terms of the previous point you were making, absolutely. I mean, we wanted to be the leader in terms of this program and the catalyst, because it's true that it's not just us that's making the donation. We're donating the product, absolutely, but somebody needs to get the product there. Somebody needs to apply the product. Somebody needs to do the training, local import taxes, what have you. For as example, B2Gold Fekola in Mali, as we speak, is doing a Cypher Green Roads program this week. It's a known fact that they had to move a small village called Fadugu when they built the mine a couple of years ago. And so we had suggested to them, well, why don't you guys treat the roads of New Fadugu, as they've called it now, the new village that they have built for the residents of Fadugu. And so that's what we're doing, as well as 2 other small villages. And of course, we couldn't do this without B2Gold's cooperation. They're the ones who are going out and applying the product. They're the ones who did the importation of the products. So we just provided the training, and we provided the product at no cost. So somebody needs to take the lead, absolutely. And then, most people inherently want to do good. And once you take the lead,
Yeah, I was
generally
going to
speaking,
say.
people will follow suit. And so we're really, really happy to have some phenomenal client partners out there like B2Gold and Baffinland. And we're a multi-sectoral company, Jared, I should mention. So while we wanted to focus on talking on mining today, we work with, forestry, oil and gas companies, municipalities. A cool Cypher Green Road story is last year we sold a bunch of product to a bunch of villages in Alaska, and when they pooled their order, it was enough for Green Roads to
I see.
apply, and they're actually filling enough. They're taking enough product to fill a C-130 Hercules, and they're flying it into a fly-in only small little village in Alaska, and we're treating all the roads within this little village for free. So it's a really, really cool story. And I mean, at the end of the day, selfishly too, people like talking about this stuff and hearing about it. So I'm not going to lie, Jared. I mean, it's a nice business development tool for us as well. But at the end of the day, we're giving back, and we feel great about the program. And always do what's right in Green Roads. That they're sort of born at the same time. And once you start doing good and create that general positive energy in an organization, good things like that tend to flow simultaneously.
Yeah, no, they really do, and it's so much of it is just having that clear direction too, so that the team sort of knows, like you touched on, they know the criteria, they know at very least what you're going to expect from an idea. So if an idea goes against that, it doesn't consume the team's time, because they know it doesn't go through the filter.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to touch on some of these mine examples where the road stabilization, you touched on it a little bit at the beginning, but I kind of wanted to expand on it, because that's getting into really, the actual wear and tear on vehicles and things like that. So could you sort of expand on that side of your product, on the stabilization?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have 2 products, Road Stabilizer and Dust Blocker. So Road Stabilizer, to answer your question, the first one specifically works on high clay content materials. You don't need to have 100% clay. There needs to be about 20. There needs to be a small portion of clay in there. The clay itself actually acts as a binder and binds everything together. Now, clay normally is thought of as a marginal engineering input, because when it gets wet, it swells and it loses all of its strength and requires a lot of costly maintenance to get it back into a functioning road again. So we give you the ability to use clay as a binder and stabilize it. So after treatment with Road Stabilizer, you get increased density, increased CBR, which is California bearing ratio. It's an engineering term for soil strength. Reduced permeability and reduced swell, like I talked about. So you get a much, much stronger, denser road and a much higher performing road in dry and wet weather. Now, that's hugely beneficial to a mine, because when we reduce that density in CBR, we reduce deflection. So when a heavy weight or a haul truck is driving over a road, we reduce the movement of the road when the truck is driving over it. So it reduces the friction between the tire and the road itself. So it's called rolling resistance. So we actually reduce rolling resistance, and by reducing rolling resistance, you become your haul truck becomes more fuel efficient and more productive. So that's really cool. We've got some great examples of, for example, a mine called Shenhua in China published a paper about reducing their fuel consumption by 17.4% after treating their roads with road stabilizers. So pretty cool.
Wow.
Now, if you don't have clay in your road materials, we have Dust BLOKR. So Dust BLOKR is a topical, or it's a highly concentrated liquid product, which is just sprayed onto the road, or you can mix it in to the surface area for more stability. And it works on virtually any materials. You don't need to have that clay component. And it controls the dust. It also provides stability as well. So it reduces grading frequencies, as does Road Stabilizer. It reduces watering events, improves productivity, et cetera, et cetera. And both products have no impact on the environment. In fact, they both have Boeing conformities because we apply them on airstrips as well. And so you need to have a Boeing conformity that basically proves that your product has no negative impact on the airplane, like doesn't cause corrosion. There's a big differentiator between us and salt, by the way. I talked about salt before because it's fully corrosive. So
Yeah, fully
doesn't cause corrosion, doesn't have an impact on the paints and coatings, et cetera. And so, I only bring that up because, of course, when you've got, multi-million-dollar haul trucks driving up and down your haul roads, you want to know that the product you're putting on your road is not going to impact that haul truck and depreciate that asset faster. And so the products are totally benign and have no impact on the equipment whatsoever.
Have you had companies, I think you mentioned one in China, and then have you had other companies like do measurements of that roll resistance and how much reduction you've actually been able to reach by applying a stabilization product?
Yeah, well, as you know, not all mining companies are willing to share their data.
I have
So
found that on the show
we,
as one of our challenges. Yes.
yeah, we do. So we do have a couple of examples, none that are published papers like the one in China that I can talk as openly about.
Right.
But something really cool is that we're a little over 50% of the way through a project at the University of Alberta in their civil engineering department to analyze past results of road stabilizer treated materials and roads, as well as the CBR or the California California bearing ratio gains in the treated material. So we can do like untreated and treated. We can do this in our lab. We have our own soils testing lab, by the way, so we can do all this testing ourselves. But of course, it's being done by the U of A. And the idea is for them to actually come up with a model that's going to predict for our clients before they even use our products what their fuel savings are going to be. So that's really cool. So we're pretty excited to get the results of that. And so hopefully a year from now, we'll be able to share that data. And when we actually talk to a client before they actually build a road, we'll be able to tell them what their OpEx savings are. And it's a really cool model because then, it's in terms of creating the justification for the use of our technologies, as well as several other different factors that will have an impact on the mine. It's going to be awesome.
Do you get does it get quite technical with these when you're a B2 Gold or like large operators? Are they, I mean, when they're coming to you, do they have someone from their team that really gets into the nuts and bolts, or do they come usually with a pretty good idea that it's the right fit, or are they looking for all these metrics and data to make sure?
You know what? It really depends on the market. I actually find that jurisdictionally, it will have an impact from region to region. Like if I would say Chile, for example, the mines there are regulated a lot more for dust emissions than a mine in Africa, in certain parts of Africa,
Yeah.
or maybe in China, for example. And so, depending on the different area, there's going to be stricter or tighter regulations, and that will maybe change the way in which the mine will approach communicating with us. Sometimes they're okay by just saying, oh, it looks like there's a lot less dust, and so it's just a visual subjective, that it looks like that product's working great. Whereas
Right.
other customers will specifically ask for a 90% reduction in dust, and 85% reduction in dust, what have you. And of course, we do have expertise as well in doing dust monitoring for our clients. So for the clients that want a very precise, specific reduction in dust or calculation or formula as to how to do that, we can support that, and we can also provide training for our clients as to how they can actually do their own dust monitoring, to tell them when, if they're, for example, if there's a certain threshold they have to meet for government regulations, they know when they have to go and do a maintenance application or turn a certain device on. If it's because, like you said before, Jared, not all dust from mines comes from roads, and it comes from crushers and tailings.
Right.
Our products are applicable for tailings piles too, by the way. I should probably
Oh, they are.
selfishly
Okay.
slot that in there as well.
Yeah.
But the same products, the dust blocker product that we apply on haul roads and access roads, it's applicable for all sorts of erosion control applications as well. So you can spray it on topically on the surface of dry stack tailing piles to eliminate erosion. So in the form of dust or water erosion in the rain with tailings.
Well, I don't think it's any secret. We've discussed it on the show. Some of these issues that that some of them are a little more extreme, like internal things, where these tailings ponds have had issues, but and some quite catastrophic. So, is that have you noticed an uptick in that sort of companies inquiring and needing that as a from the dust blocker?
Well, I think more and more as we see these tailings dam failures, that's always been stored in liquid form. So dry stack tailings would be the ones that we would be
Oh, I
treating. And
see.
so I would
Okay, gotcha.
absolutely
Yeah.
think that in the future people may. I can't confess to being an expert in in tailings, but I would imagine that in the future, of course, there's going to be stricter regulation on tailings dam engineering, but if that gets too expensive or if you just run out of space to do them, the dry stack might be the answer, and that then of course they're going to need to look at ways to minimize the environmental impact of those tailings, and of course then we will have a solution. So time will tell.
Yeah, did I wanted to go into just some of your other work. You've been on. I was reading through one thing. Uh, the what was it called? It was you were actually working as an advisor to Administering. I don't know if that's still active right now, but I was reading through some of it. It looked pretty interesting. Can you? I just wanted to talk a little bit more,
Sure.
Todd, about your just sort of outside the business, sort of the entrepreneurial side, and working,
Yeah,
being
yeah.
advisors or government official, those types of things, and just give us a little bit of context.
Yeah, happy to talk about it. Actually, I met Administering at mining Indaba in 2020, I guess it was just before the pandemic hit. Mining Indaba is Africa's version of PDAC, if
Gotcha.
you will. So it's the largest mining investment forum in Africa in Cape Town. I love it there, and in fact, very disappointed. Normally, I'm just getting ready for my trip there, and it's been postponed this year, as it was last year too. So first world
Did
problems.
that announcement just
Yeah.
come, or had they
Well,
postponed
it's
it?
postponed until May as of now, but we'll see what happens with
Yeah.
Omicron and everything. But anyways,
Oh, okay.
um, so yeah, to get back to your question, so I've always been an advocate for the lack of uptake of the use of Canadian-made technologies, specifically Canadian-made clean tech in Canada.
Mm.
And so, I was asked to join what was called the Global Clean Tech Advisory Group, which was developed by Minister Ng and the various portfolios that she manages. And the specific focus was to grow the clean tech sector in Canada. And the whole idea was to grow the uptake of Canadian clean tech in Canada, to develop markets in Canada that would act as a proof of concept for these new technologies to then build upon to take it to international markets,
Right.
to really make an impact on our economy. And that's why I think I was chosen to be in the group, because I've always been quite vocal also about the fact that Cypher always had to go all over the world proving our technologies before we could use them here. And the very start of the program, Jared, you mentioned about uh, recently more uptake of Cypher's technologies locally. I think you were talking about the city of Winnipeg,
I
which
was,
was
yeah.
great because now people used to think I was this crazy guy talking about all these dust control and soil stabilization roads I'm building all over the world, but they couldn't actually see it. So now now I can take my mom and my brother and my cousins and my friends or whatever and take them on tours of roads we've done around here. which
That's
is
funny.
great. But yeah, so so anyways, back to the Global Clean Tech Advisory Group. So the main focus really was to just see Canadian clean technology used in Canada. And so of course this was just before the recent election, and so everything sort of gets put on hold. When the election is taking place, and it's a little bit slow moving to get things going again. And so I don't have word as to whether or not the group's going to be picked up again or not this year. But I'm working on some little interesting pet projects myself to really start to see integrated markets get developed in Canada that share best practices and also really tear down procurement related challenges that get in the way of using new technologies, new innovative technologies, and new clean tech. So
Are there any countries that stand out to you that do it well, where you sort of see an example of it, or is this all from the ground up? Sort of how you're approaching it when you? I mean, I know getting it all implemented is another level, but just your own outlook on it. Do you Are there other examples where you see it done what you perceive as the right way?
well, you don't have to go too far, just south of the border here. That
Yeah,
everyone's always talking about the Buy America policies, and they may be sometimes borderline on protectionism uh, style philosophies, which I think might be going a bit too far. But I think there's something to be
right.
learned there, and I think I'm not sure that I have any countries that are specific shining examples, but I think we can just look to our neighbors to the south to see a program they're doing that's had some success that I think we can learn from.
Yeah, I mean yeah, I mean we have lots of American companies come on our show, and there's a there is almost an aggressiveness to how they collaborate and push something out and sort of get things going. One thing I'm always curious, and I think you're the right person to ask because of some of the experience and the advisory work you've done. Do you Is it just too many hurdles sometimes for Canadian companies that have a new way of doing things or an environmentally, supportive product or whatever they've got? It's just hard to get things going, or is it even a cultural thing? Or what are some of the challenges that you actually see?
Well, I'd say I could probably answer that quite succinctly by saying risk aversion.
Mm,
It's
right. Yeah.
it's all these risk averse people out there that are causing roadblocks. I mean, if I use Cypher as an example, it's engineers. No offense, we have engineers on staff. I love engineers, but typically speaking, I mean, we're trying to introduce them to a new innovative approach, and quite often an engineer is used to doing things in a very standardized approach,
Right.
standard way of doing things, and so. And it's not just, I mean, I should just, throw engineers under the bus, but I mean, it's procurement professionals, it's managers, it's government, it's just decision makers at various different levels that don't want to be the ones to try something new, that don't want to take a risk to put their to be perceived to put their career on the line or their neck on the line or what have you, or to try to spend money to do something differently or try something different. And it's just a matter of just tearing down the walls so that people can actually be innovative and be more more rapid to be that first to adopt. And I think it's just figuring out ways for companies to tear down that risk aversion that is really going to be the key to their success.
Yeah, so you kind of bring up an interesting thing because you're talking, you started out with engineers, but then it sort of goes through the layers of different people that can kind of create these roadblocks. And that kind of goes back to what it's there's there's maybe an instinct. You go, maybe it's a government policy that needs to be put in place, but sort of what you're kind of getting at is that it's also a bit of a cultural thing where it's just, I mean, and I see it really firsthand because of dealing with so many American companies on the show. Like for example, you might in a Canadian company, it might take 6 weeks to a month before a show gets booked. It's very typical. We plan for it, we know it. An American company, the decision's made within 30 minutes of a conversation. And I'm not exaggerating. That's truly not an exaggeration. It's just a completely different way of going through the process of making a decision. So do you think I mean, I'm sort of throwing that out there. I don't want to be saying that that's what you're saying. So I kind of want to clarify. Do you sort of see that as well, even when you're doing business in Canada as opposed to doing business in America or some other countries?
You know what? I think it might sound kind of funny when I say this, and I've said it a few times on record before, but I truly think that the more developing a country is, the more open to innovation they are because they have just that massive need to fill.
Yeah,
Whereas here, culturally speaking, we're in Canada, we're very comfortable, same with our neighbors to the south, and I think there's sort of an old the old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, or maybe
right.
that doesn't really apply, but I think we're pretty happy to continue to do things the old fashioned, the normal way, because that's the way we've always known how to do it. And there's no desperate need. I mean, there's or for the most part, our job rates are high, and education rates and
Yeah,
literacy rates are high. And I mean that's those numbers are irrelevant. What I'm saying is that there's just less of a need to drive change, to create change, to find new revolutionary ways of doing things, to save money, to be more efficient. I think the general culture here is just we're happy to continue to be to do things in the old fashioned ways. And well, if it's working for me today, why bother going out and trying something new? And so I think it's just opening people's eyes up to the fact that there are new ways of doing things, and creating a culture where people want to be that first adopter and be
right.
more
Yeah.
willing to innovate and try new things.
Do you think with you coming in, and sort of having that approach though, and I've got a chance to, I mean, we don't know each other that well, but I've got a chance to talk to you a couple times now, and sort of you definitely approach it from a very positive way, and it's like you're actually enjoying the process as opposed to sort of, everybody's getting in the way, and like you see that where people have something innovative and they almost begrudge people for standing in their way while they're trying to sort of get it out there. You approach it from a very positive. Do you see that sort of, I guess for lack of a better word, inspires people to sort of do things different and to look and sort of change their focus? Have you got to see the result of that?
I hope so. Yeah, you know what, Jared? I think patience is a virtue. As cliche as it cliche as it sounds, and
Yep.
when you're introducing new innovative technologies, or when you're building a business, you can't expect it to happen overnight. And if you don't really adopt a philosophy of patience, you can let your emotions get the best of you. You can let your passions get the best of you, and it's a long game. Rome wasn't built overnight, and we're not gonna get people off of salt or oil overnight either. It's gonna take time.
Right.
And so if you don't enjoy the ride, what's the point of doing it? So
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean,
so
yeah, that's it though, isn't it? If
yeah,
you have to enjoy that, like you cannot just be looking for to enjoy the end result, because by the time you get to the end result, there'll be a whole bunch of new problems that popped up anyway. Like there is no, and I've said this to other people as well, and I'm still fairly young in my business career, but I've learned that there is no end. It doesn't until maybe you sell off and you go sit on a beach somewhere. Until you've done that, it doesn't stop. It's a continuous process. And as soon as you get to a place where you stop, someone else is ready to take your place. They're going to be the new innovator anyways. So you'll have to catch all up again.
yeah, yeah. No, that's very true. It's an infinite game, as they say.
Yeah. So sort of what would be next? Just kind of looking, out for Cypher Environmental and sort of your plans for the company. What's sort of next for you? If you look at 2-3 years, I'm out. You're obviously working a lot of places around the world. You've expanded to do some local work, which is good. Do you sort of focus on expanding to more industries? What's sort of the targets?
Yeah, we're going to be getting. We're actually going to. We're quite focused on some expanding our manufacturing plants worldwide. So I talked before about the great feeling of getting in locally here with the roads in Winnipeg, and
Mhm.
um, but Winnipeg being a central market in North America, we really want to focus on logistics now. And it's when you're selling environmental products, of course, convincing people sometimes to make the switch, and on occasion at a premium is a challenge. And so for us to focus on logistics, so be as close to ports and as close to our raw material
Right.
suppliers as possible is going to be key for us. And so we're looking to set up a shop in a few different areas around the world within the next 2 to 3 years. And of course, beyond that, Cypher 2.0 will be will be revolutionizing a market. I won't get into all the details yet because we haven't commercialized or fully announced it yet. But we have a really phenomenal new game-changing, industry-changing product in the hopper that's still going to be focused on roads, but solving a major environmental issue with roads. And it's going to be a game changer for us too. So I call it Cypher 2.0 because when that hits, we're going to be going through some substantial growth. So looking forward to
Well,
continuing to make
that's
looking forward to continuing to make an even bigger impact around the world.
well. Hopefully, that's setting us up for doing a part 2 then, Todd.
There you go.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for joining the show. I'm glad you came on and sort of walked us through things. You're doing a lot of interesting stuff as a company, and I do hope, all jokes aside, that you do come back. Once you're into that next stages, and if the supply chains and that thing, that'd be a pretty interesting thing to unpack once you sort of got it in place. So look forward to having you back on.
Sounds good, Jared. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you everybody for watching. The show continues to grow, the audience continues to grow, and that's thanks to all the guests that come on and the sponsors and you tuning in and supporting industry and sharing our content. So we appreciate that. Please keep doing it. Please keep suggesting guests. I quite often say on the show now, we can't our vision is only so wide, so we miss people that should be a part of the show. So please keep suggesting guests. We really do appreciate it. Thank you very much to our sponsors. Thank you, Cypher Environmental and Todd Burns, for helping us put together this episode of Mining Now. And of course, thank you, CIM, for supporting the show. We will see you on the next episode of Mining Now.